supposed to make some videos today, but I didn't end up doing it. I was basically using my computer all day, but I only did like a paragraph or one half a page of whatever I was supposed to be typing out. Technically, I guess I could do some more typing. I have around 4 hours before I actually go to bed, but I'm not a keen evening person. I don't even know what it is I really have to do. I have to find 5 sources to help promote ethics and somehow reach the topic of taboo. But since it's like a really big heat wave, I think I'll probably do all that tomorrow. So this evening I made dinner because I didn't want to eat what the other person wanted to eat. So I said, screw that, I'm going to make dinner. And then they said, can I have some of whatever you're cooking? And so I made dinner in the end. I kind of want to watch a movie. It's an old movie. Well, it's not a really old movie. It's from, I don't remember what year it's from. But I was just watching little clips of it on the internet, and I was like, oh, I wouldn't mind watching that movie. But I don't always like to watch movies. Like, I only half watched this movie. I don't remember what it's called, but it was about like it's like Hollywood Dreams or something. And it's like this movie about these teenagers who get exposed to modeling. And of course, this lame ass girl gets influenced by whatever she's exposed to until she wants to be a model too. So I only half watched that the other night. Like, this was like probably 3 or 4 nights ago. Not because it wasn't interesting. I just started watching it at 11:30, and by 12 o'clock I was sort of wanting to go to bed. And so I didn't end up watching all of it. I think I watched it until 12:20, and then I was like, oh, I'm too tired, I'm going to go to bed, and I'm going to watch the rest of it tomorrow. And then tomorrow came, and I just didn't end up watching it. So I still haven't seen that movie, all of it. But I've seen it before. I've definitely watched it before. But I was like having a movie night, and I was like, oh, I don't want to go on the computer or anything, so I'll just watch a movie. And that's what I watched the other night. Tonight, I was going to watch Passengers because sometimes I'm in the mood for seeing that movie, but I don't think I'll end up watching it because I couldn't be bothered watching it at the moment. So I've just been watching little clips on the internet, so that's all I've been doing, really. But then I realized I haven't actually made many videos in the past 2 days, and it's because literally there's nothing to film. I've already filmed my plans, so I don't need to continuously put updates when they take weeks and months to progress. But I do feel like ever since I last filmed it, that stem is getting a bit taller, so I'm very nervous about my plan because it wants to keep growing and I don't have any brackets up to support it. I'm like, I don't know if that's the best position for it. I don't know what to do with it because it keeps growing bigger and bigger and then it breaks. And that's why half of another stem's broken. And then this one's getting bigger and bigger and you're like, oh, is it going to break? Virtually every day I check to see if it's still being supported by the wall because the other one was growing without the support of the wall because this one was against the wall instead. And so I'm like, well, I've got to make sure it's growing with support on the wall because otherwise it'll end up breaking. It's a really delicate, viney plant. Like, I don't really get why people grow them because it's not a strong vine. It just seems to be very delicate and sensitive. And I'm like, it's too delicate. It needs to support itself. It needs to be able to grow off a wall, at least, without brackets. And I'm like, because I can't tie it on little things forever. And I don't know how tall this plant grows, but it seems to be growing up to ceiling height. So it's like 2 to 3 meters. And so it's just getting taller and taller, and I don't know what to do with it. Virtually, this plant was originally bought as to help showcase the previous house before it was sold. So it was just sitting there looking pretty to encourage buyers to want to buy it. Um, Saying that, whoever bought the house seemed like I was told someone drove past and they said it was in a pretty decrepit position from the you know from the state it had been. So you're like, oh, that's interesting because it was an old house, but it was a pretty solid house. I didn't really want to move, but the other person who owned it did. So there you go. Um, but anyway, so ever since I kept this one and the other person kept the other one, and I must say mine is flourishing a lot more than theirs. I think I just take care of it in a different way, which seems to be doing it some good. But I don't feed any of my plants enough fertilizer because I virtually haven't fed them any, and they keep probably needing to drink something like fertilizer. And have not checked the garage to see if my fertilizer is in there. As you can see, I'm probably not going to get around to watching the movie tonight because I'm just like not really with it with movies right now. So, but I was watching little clips of it, and I'm like, I was like, oh, I should watch that movie because it's been a while since I've seen it. It's probably been, I last saw it probably, I don't know, 8 months ago, maybe 12 months ago. It was in the last year sometime, but quite a while ago. And I watched it because yeah, I haven't watched it a lot. I've watched it like probably 5 times ever since it was released on the internet or DVD or whatever you call it. So, and I'm not sure if I actually have it. Do I have it in my video collection? I don't know. My video collection's in storage with all my other stuff, and I'm seriously considering just getting a really good cupboard so I can move my stuff in and store it in the garage. But I don't know. I'm aware that I'm still like living with people for free. Because I can't afford my own rent. Even though I feel like I might have gotten a job this year if I live closer to the city, I had to give away a couple of jobs because I don't live near the city and I couldn't start the jobs in a fast and easy glide. So I didn't end up starting. I had 2 job offers in the city. I'm like, oh, if only I could have picked them up. But my relative was being very stern against me from staying with them until until I get a rental. And so I was like, oh, so I grew depressive for a couple of weeks. I was depressed because I was sad that I couldn't pick up the jobs. And so I literally just crawl into like a little ball, and then I just stay by myself for a while sulking about it, and then I get over it. So, but I'm scared of this place because it's literally like, I always say this is a tornado zone house, and I don't want to get I don't want to get caught in a tornado because I'm scared of them. And sometimes you're really just relying on luck to get away from them, and I'm like, oh, because to me this house isn't tornado proof at all, and a tornado comes around and it'll just blow it all down. And then you'll be scrambling outside looking for whatever to hide behind. So really heavy box ceramic plant pots are really good, but you have to have them filled with soil and heavy plants, and they might be able to protect you a little. But we've had a fire tornado before, and it melts everything. Like, we had different kinds of metal pot plants, and one of them was a cast iron pot plant. The other one was some sort of steel, and the other one, or it might have been an aluminium steel blend or something. Either way, the other one melted, and it was the iron one that actually was any good. And then it, holding it, against a fire volcano, it gets really, really hot, and your hands, if you don't have gloves on them, they'll burn. And 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 then of course the wind pushes really strongly, so you can end up gutting yourself with a something that's like a big pan that you're holding in front of yourself to protect yourself from the fiery tornadoes. So it's really dramatic. I've been in one before, and it's like in the same place actually when we previously earned it. So yeah. So my conspiracy theory is um May to June maybe might bring tornadoes. I'm looking at the weather report every day though, because it's like, so many fluctuations in temperatures and all this other stuff's going on, and then you're like, Cyclone Freddy's probably gonna make a comeback, and then it'd be like, oh, and guess what? Tornadoes are coming one day. So anyway, I was looking for jobs in the city, hybrid jobs with training in the city, so I can do a few weeks training in the city, get some reprieve from here, maybe stay somewhere um, for a few weeks, maybe like I have to investigate holiday stays or something, short-term stays, and anyway, stay somewhere for a few weeks, and then my plan would be to go shopping, go to the things that I like, go to the Gold Coast for like a holiday, and then do all those things that I like to do while I'm in training, and then go back home to do the work from home. So I was looking for that, but then I got flooded with all these offers for work from the casual job that I'm linked to. They've started to work us like 4 days a week, and so I'm like, so I'm earning money finally, and I haven't needed to get another job for it. So I was on the books with this other place, and I'm like, oh, finally I'm working, so that's kicked me back into gear. But yeah. But I was gonna do a reflection on the fact that living with other people for now could end, and then I'll be like on my own again for like the fifth hundredth time, and I'm like, going back to my roots of when I first started to kind of live by myself. I kind of know what to expect without knowing what the hell I'll be doing if or when I do things alone again. But I think this is the last stop with family, and then it's like when this place caves, I'll just get my stuff out of storage and go wherever. I probably should aim for $150 a week rentals, because that will secure me. I usually dive for the $300 to $350 a week rentals because they're a little cushy, and I like to live in nice cushy areas. They're cushy without being too cushy, but they're usually not with solar power. It's the 450 to 550s that's got solar power, and then you're like going, oh, this is way over my head. So the higher the price, the more you're expected to earn more money. And I'm like, it's just not working for me when it's like 450, 550. I really need a job for that. So I mean, you need a job anyways, but like, ideally, I should be like going for $150 a week, because then I won't lose money necessarily, and I'm pretty sure I can manage to scramble for that generously. Once, like, I was remembering, like, today, I was remembering this really cheap rental that I found halfway towards the Gold Coast, and it was in this little quiet area, and it gets floods. But that wasn't the worst thing about it. The worst thing that I met someone who liked to think of themselves as like Superman or something. And I met this guy, and he said I had to hang out with him because I was an obvious, it was obvious I needed someone. And and then he made me hang out with him. And so I had to be like a sidekick for a little while. And then, all this stuff happened, and then he didn't want to know me anymore because someone had stabbed him in the leg, as part of him being like what do you call it when people dress up as characters of TV? It's a little bit of a, oh, I forget. What is it called? I think it starts with C, where people dress up like the people in like. Anyway, I don't remember what the word is, but anyway, yeah, he ended up getting beaten up for being like Superman in looks. And that was my last whacked out cheap rental. That, see how you meet like weird people sometimes? That was a kind of whacked out thing. I meet sometimes whacked out people, and once I was like dressing up and attending like weird comic festivals, and everyone wanted to take my picture because they thought I looked pretty. And then someone got pissed off that people were taking pictures of me and not them, and then I got threatened with physical violence, and then I left everyone to it. So that was a long, long time ago. And then on another day, I ended up walking around this place, and people were like wanting me to take pictures because I look kind of nice sometimes when I'm dressed up. This was ages ago when I had a better body. Now it's like I need a total what do you call it? A costume, like an everybody costume, like Daffy Duck or something. And I'd be like maybe have a good figure, but at the moment I'm just too heavy. I need to work on it sometimes, so I might have to try finding a rental near a pool or something, and then doing what I do to get my skin in good condition, and then actually swimming or something. I don't know. As you can see, the opportunities are abundant when you're off by yourself. Either way, I'm gonna be freaked out once again, because I do have deposits for houses, but I don't have a place where I can afford, and I don't believe that there is such a thing as a house which doesn't have weather problems. So I'm really negative towards buying stuff because I just don't know what you'll meet. And like I said, last time I was buying houses and things, like people who are richer than you, they say, I like that house, and then they go take you to court, and then the court demands that you sell them your house, otherwise you go to jail or something. And so then you're ambushed, and then you're forced to like sign over your house, and then you're left without a house. So that happens when you don't build your own house from scratch. Like when you buy someone else's house or apartment, people just do that. And then, quite a few of my houses were lost to that kind of scheme. Others, I just couldn't afford the house insurance to go with the house, and you definitely need it because one big storm and your house has like got problems. And I tried to once live without it, and I ended up with $550,000 dollars worth of damages that I couldn't afford to fix. And so, I ended up losing that house, and I lost all the money that I had put forward for the house, and that really sucked. So I generally don't advise to buy a house and not actually put insurance on it, because insurance saves you from forking out hundreds and thousands of dollars, but still nothing makes it easy. And my house insurance, I think, was put on some sort of unfair level. I think I'm always paying more than triple any other person, and I think that's unfair, but that's how much I get charged every time ever since I first was taking out house insurance. So I think that really sucks. I don't think the average person can afford $2,000 to $4,000 a week in house insurance. I really don't, unless you're a business owner. And that's led me to other houses where I've actually tried to open my own business, and then that hit me in the face, and then I had to close the business and everything to do with it, and everything. So if I'm ever alone and I want to start a farm, I'll just do like organic shop near the actual farm itself, because that's what I was doing, just growing fruits and juicing stuff at first. And someone said, oh, go to the supermarket and bottle your juices and sell it, and then we had problems with like the bottling and the juice itself. It was getting moldy really quickly and everything, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's a bottle. You haven't like sanitized it enough or sterilized it enough or whatever," and all that bacteria is growing really quickly because of the bottle. And that seemed to be kind of true, but I couldn't afford for an expensive engineer to figure out what the hell was wrong with the issues. And then that whole business idea flunked, and I had to go back to selling everything about the farm and everything else, and then I sort of went back to the normal world without. And I was like, if only I just kept on with the fresh juicing, then I wouldn't have lost the farm. There are so many stories. I've had so many different houses in so many different areas. I've already stated how I lived in the bush a couple of times, and they lit on fire during fire season. I went out back and there were crocodiles everywhere. This and that and this and that. So there's and when I'm not going out back, I've done the Gold Coast thing. I've done small town country. I've done suburbia. I've done inner city. I've done city too. And even in the city, house insurance just blows me away because right away, when I was in the city and I bought this apartment, there was right away like a cyclone, and it broke my whole entire window, damaged the facade of the small apartment, and I have no idea what happened to the insurance. I think the house insurance went up over $550, and I wasn't that rich at the time, so I was like, I lost a couple of really great apartments to 550, like over 550 a week house insurance, and I'm like, yeah. I think it's gonna be really scary if I do move out on my own though, because I'll literally like be packing up my little backpack and not having a clue what on earth I'm doing, and stuff, and so it'll be scary too. It'll be kind of cool because then I'll realize, oh, I'm on my own again. But at the same time, it's kind of scary because I'm like, oh, I'm on my own. No one's paying. I have to pay for everything, and all that pressure's on me to get my butt to earn and earn and earn just so I can afford stuff. That's good if it works out, if it gets your butt into gear and you get encouraged to get a job. But if you try jobs and they just don't work out, and then you're still expected to pay stuff or end up like in poverty, then it's like, it's really pressured. And I don't have that much financial backing. I have only a little bit. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I might totally flunk again, like I have like 40 or 60 times before. And then I'll be on my own again. I'm like, oh, what will I do? And I'm like, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't have any friends at all anymore. And I'm like, what would I do? And I'm like, I don't know what I would do. I'd just do what I normally do. I'm trying to figure it out. I literally don't know where to live most of the time. So I just start nearby, and then I get further and further if I come up with more complications from wherever I live, whether it's like availability of jobs or any other reason, or hiking up of prices. Maybe some other state has a price apartment or something that I think I can afford and stuff, and I'm like, so many different reasons why I might move around. But I literally went to live in the other state, but then I moved up here, and I feel like relieved a lot, but at the same time I'm like, I don't belong in the country because I can't drive a car. And then the city, if it worked out, if I got more opportunities and it worked out, then I could see it working. But until it starts working out, I'm like, oh, maybe I did want to live in the other place, because that's, for people who can't drive, literally. And I miss going to everything nearby. Like, I used to go to dance concerts more often and music concerts more often because the theaters are really close by. And I'm like, I mean, there are still theaters in this state, but last time I went to a dance concert, it was so nasty because people who are racist sometimes go there, and I'm like, and then sometimes the ushers are really, you know, and this was like over 20 years ago though, the ushers were kind of mean to me, and so, but I think they fixed up their act because I think an usher got a little too mean to me, and they were fired, and then it helped them to pick up their act a little bit with treating people who are customers kind of nice. So I would say that awful event was like early 2000s. So somewhere between 2001 to 2005 or something. Somewhere in between there. I don't know exactly. It might have even been 2001 exactly because 2001 I was living up here for a little while. And so it might have been 2001, but it might have been later because I also moved around 2006 and um, a few other times too. I don't really remember them exactly, but I get around. Yeah, but after I literally after I live here, it's like I'm gonna be on my own and I'm gonna be so scared because it's been a while since I lived on my own. But this time I won't be able to come back, I won't be able to come back essentially. Unless so then I'll be like literally kicked on my own, and I'm like, oh shivers, what if I run out of money, and what if I need backup and I've got no one to back me up and all this other stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what you do. I mean, what do you normally do? And I'm like, I don't know what I do. I usually just flunk and head back home to be supported by other people. So I don't know. You think someone like me, as old as I am, wouldn't have these sorts of worries floating around in their heads? And I'm like, yes, they do. They do still. So I'm gonna probably be freaked out. Like, I'll be partying for like a night and then I'll be freaked out that I won't be able to afford things in the future. So I'm just gonna have to like apply for every job on the internet, literally. Doesn't matter if it's reception or secretary or, customer service or sales, or I don't know what other jobs there are. I'm very much scared though of reception and secretary because that's where I literally get beaten, you know, by employers. So they're so mean to me. I think secretaries are worst. I liked the reception job where you got to be buddying with other people, and then I was like the quiet buddy, and the other one was the talking buddy because I have a heart condition. So whenever I'm working, I'm battling with that. And so once or twice, I got like this cushy reception position, which was like buddying, and I didn't have to talk to anyone who came to the front desk because the other person would talk to them first. I thought that was the better position, but with secretary or even a not data entry, but like what are they called? Assistant, office assistant or something. I was taken to town by my employer. They were so mean to me because they really upped themselves, and they were like being like I don't know, kind of like 50 Shades of Greyish, but with more pompous attitude. And they were like, wearing their Rolex, and they've literally got like, I don't know, gold rings, and their hair's done up, and they smell really nice, and they look really handsome. And then they're so good looking, they feel like they can treat you like crap. So, I virtually was like taken to the curb, to the curb in the office, and then I had to leave the job. Actually, I didn't even have to leave the job because I was literally fired on the same night. So, but that's how mean the office jobs are for me. So I'm like usually pretty terrified that things will go really badly, and um, I usually get too scared to be able to show up to interviews because I literally am terrified of office people. But I think if I'm on my own again, I'm gonna have to like get over my terrified state and just go until I collapse because um, I think sometimes I just run out of money because I'm not going for everything. Like, I used to make myself go to the ports to pick up on, because they give you really good, well paying job opportunities. But the bad side is that when there's a storm, there's cyclones and there's floods, and the ocean can come over into the complex and try and drown everyone that's in it. And you're literally like on the edge of a pier that's hanging over the water. And so to walk away from the job, you walk away, and if there's a storm, there's ocean water spraying all over the deck, and sometimes you can't even leave because there's so much water around. You can't walk through it, and it's dangerous to swim through it. And then the employer themselves, they freak out, and sometimes they throw you off into the ocean water because there's so much water around. And then you have to swim to shore, and that's very dangerous too. So, so it's a really good job up until you get a storm, but they give you jobs really quickly. Like, they give you jobs really quickly, and so I used to be like, just go and do it. It's not going to last more than a month anyway, because employees are pretty nifty because of all the ocean water that comes across. And so I'm like, just do it already. And so I used to push myself to do it, but sometimes it just gets overwhelming to face that much water. It's the water that's a bigger threat, and like I said, employers are weird enough to want to chuck you into the ocean because the whole thing's flooding, and even standing on the roof, there's water flooding everything. And I used to literally take like little plastic bags and stuff so I can I used to like put air in the bag and use the bag like a little snorkel. And I used to put like a plastic bag like over my head and try and seal it so that when I'm bent over a sink, so that you're sort of water protectant. While the whole floor to ceiling is covered in water, and so and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's pretty intense, but I managed to survive the ports. The dangerous thing was when you're chucked in the water because someone's having an unholy cow about how much flood water there is. And so sometimes I got chucked off the pier and into this ocean while it's sort of over, like level with the pier. And then you have to like swim as hard as you can to get back to shore. And I used to swim right to the airport, which is nearby. As you can see, these jobs are very physically exhausting and dangerous, but that's what I used to do when I'm sort of pushing myself. Hurry up and apply for any job that you get given. I'm like, yeah, you just do it, And that's me pushing myself. I also worked for BP once, and they got me to do an offshore oil rig job, and it's supposed to pay you more than triple your normal wage. And of course it did, but the thing was, there was an explosion on the oil rig and things caught in fire, and we had to like all jump off it. And then I ended up on the bottom of a boat which was being chased by sharks, and then I ended up suffering hypothermia and my legs froze until I couldn't actually move them, and then I had to be revived with a blanket, and then I was told I'd done a good job, but I was still fired. So these are the types of jobs I have when I'm by myself and I'm edging a living any way I can. And as you can see, I probably have every reason to feel traumatized from my experiences, but they're kind of funny too. I mean, in a way they're fun, in a way it's like an adventure, but in many other ways it's so dangerous. No one in their right mind would actually accept jobs like that. But I did, and I actually survived all of them and everything. And I'm like, yeah, you can raise your own glass and, celebrate that you actually survived everything without too much injury. And it's sort of a gas though, because other people were injured and stuff from whatever happened. So, especially on the oil rig, someone was complaining, everyone else has been injured, why are you the only one who isn't injured, kind of thing. And I was like, well, there's a few people over there, a couple of people over there, and they're like, everyone else was injured, and you are the only one sitting there having a little, you know, as though everything's just been a walk around the yard. And I'm like, oh, well, I was literally just frozen with one of those hypothermia blankety things. And I'm like, yeah. Anyway, I think that's biased and unfair. I mean, I've also faced my own trials and tribulations and everything during the course of the however many hours has passed. And I was like, but that's the thing when you're like put in these sorts of things. It's like people think that you're the only person who've gotten off lightly when you've just gotten some luck and you face just as many trials as anyone else. It's just that you just look like you haven't been injured. And physically, I wasn't injured, but my legs had frozen and I needed a special blanket to have them unfrozen. And I was suffering hypothermia too. So that. So yeah, I would say moving by myself from here is gonna be tough. I would say it's gonna be very tough. I might contemplate on flirting myself into another relationship. You never know. I haven't done it in a while and I look kind of old, but you know, I'm looking at my chest a lot and I'm like, oh, my chest needs more anti-aging because it looks so old. It looks old, you know. I'm concerned about looking older because I'm like, I'm no longer going to have, you know, my more youthful looks to be able to, you know, make people believe that I'm kind of pretty. I'll be like, what will I do then? I'm like, I've been tough in the past few years, probably 5 years. I've been tough with other people. Ever since I moved here in 2018, I've been tough with other people. And I've been like being the shrew. I've been having fun being the shrew. I'm like, I'm the last person in the world who would want an actual romantic relationship. And I've been throwing people off. I've been being sarcastic, having fun with my, you know, flick bad attitude kind of thing. But if I do get like by myself again, you don't know. I mean, maybe I will be desperate to shop for another relationship just to cheer myself up or something. I didn't know what I would do or how I would do it. It's been a while because I've been wanting to live on my own for a really long time. And it's like my ideal, in the past like few years, my ideal romantic living by myself thing will be me with a couple of pets. And then that's it. That's all I need. And then I just need to work and I'll probably get cats because dogs you need to be around the house. So if I'm being threatened to need to work, I can leave a couple cats indoors and they should be okay. But I don't know. But do not rent in Northgate if you do, because Northgate floods. It's either Northgate. I think it's Northgate. Yeah, and Toombul floods quite a bit. But Northgate is the worst suburb you can ever live in. And it's simply because you spend all day working, you float all your emotions, all your negativities, you've exhausted yourself, you've had lunch in the city, and then you're ready, you've got bags under your eyes, and then you go home on the train to go back to your apartment, right? And then if you're in Northgate, you get off the train, you look at the platforms, and there's water everywhere. And it's not as bad as Banyo, but it's pretty freaking bad because sometimes it's just flooded. And then you can't go to your apartment because you can't go through the flood water. And then you have to go stay in the city, either stay out late and wait for the water to recede, or you can go to the city and stay in a hotel for the night because nothing is getting you back to your apartment during the night. And you're like, that is the only thing that you don't need after you've exhausted yourself at a day of work. So that's what you keep in mind when you're looking for rentals. You just don't go to some areas, and that's one of them. But yeah, I can't believe though I'm in the same predicament as I was when I was a teenager. Like when I was a teenager, I had these exact same thoughts,
what will I do if I'm by myself? And I've always tried to come to terms with things, and everything's always blown up in my face. And so I'd be very scared if I was like moving off by myself once again, because I'm like, I'm so scared that this is not going to work out. But this time I don't have any relatives to take me back. And this time, like, I'm literally like on my own again. I'm like, oh, I'm so sad. But it's saying that it hasn't happened yet. I could spend like 1 or 2 years in this place, and then I'll end up being and then I'll be like, oh, look in the mirror and go, oh, I'm getting older and older. But still, I mean, I could spend 1 to 2 years still here yet. I don't know, no idea. I'm contemplating on seriously getting a really strong cupboard so I can move my stuff here and then shove everything in the cupboard to keep it safe. Um, but I don't know if I will. I don't really have a lot of stuff. It's just that it's all in boxes, and this place isn't the biggest house. And if I move all my stuff here, I'm gonna have to keep it all in storage. I mean, in the garage. And then I'm like, I don't know what to do with all my stuff. But I am a little nervous. I am a little nervous about living by myself because I'm like, haven't done it in a while. I'm pretty sure it's gonna suck like it sucked before. So you can really only imagine how it is. And then you're like, oh, how am I gonna get out of this? I used to have this guy that I knew, and he used to cheer me up sometimes, but he's so unreliable. I was supposed to like escalate in status, and then everything about us was a big letdown. But that's the only other person who could give me reprieve from my state of being. Otherwise, I'm dating ambiguous guys who don't realize things about me. They don't realize when you're on your own, and they're like taking their time tiptoeing across things, and then they drop the relationship in the end. No, there was this one guy that I knew, and he was like really great. He was like doing the romantic relationship thing, and he was planning towards the idea of a future, and then he got abducted. And like everything about him was almost kind of perfect in a way. Like his attitude was kind of perfect, and the idea of him, he used to phone me when I was like working or in the city or something. He used to phone me from his work and be like, can we meet up after work and everything. It was pretty endearing. I think endearing is the right word anyways. But he was quite handsome, and so he ended up getting abducted by these chicks, and then I never saw him again. The end. See, so even like dating can be really hazardous. You don't know what's going to happen with anything. Sometimes guys fall in love with a chick that's hotter than you or something, which is pretty easy because I'm just a basic chick. But other guys, they get abducted and things, and then you never see them again, and they never call you again. And then you're like, oh, I don't know what happened to them, but I definitely do not see them anymore. So I think that's just about another relationship that sort of looked like it could have worked out if the guy hadn't disappeared. I don't know, but I always felt like for a while, I haven't really felt very much kinship with other people, so I haven't really bothered very much with relationships. So I don't think a relationship will be my main aim. I think keeping a relationship on the side, as a side on possibility rather than an objective or a directive, would be like the thing to go, because I just don't really. I have a big empty space where a relationship should be, and I just don't have any way in seeing how that could happen. Either way, if I'm living on my own, I'm probably going to have to listen to a lot of music and watch a lot of movies, because literally I'll have no one, and that will probably be scary. So each night I'll probably be watching more movies and stuff just to get some fulfillment, because I think at first I'm probably going to be kind of nervous and kind of scared, that I'm living by myself, and this time it's like semi permanent and stuff, and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but it's going to happen somehow. And then I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just don't know what I'm doing. I'm still a teenager. I have no money, and whatever money I have, it's going to be gone soon. So And then I'm like, what am I going to do then? And I'm like, I don't know. I just have to make it up. Funnily enough, I did fill out this form. I probably have to retrieve the email because I think I put it inside this folder in with my emails, and I don't think I looked at it properly. Either way, I did receive a recognition form for applying for government housings, but they're not really that cheap. I mean, they're still getting you to pay $260 a week, and that's like for a townhouse or something. And I'm like, I still don't find them that cheap. Sometimes, so once I did get this tiny little apartment in this area, I don't know where it was, and it was only $80 a week. And you're like going, $80 a week? But I kept on being told it was an AIDS infected apartment or something wrong with the paint. And there was probably had asbestos in the walls or something. But still, if you're down and out and you're paying 80 or 100, even $100 a week, that is so good. And that's the cheapest government housing place I've ever been in, ever. I was like, for someone who wants to not spend money because you don't have it, that is so good. But I often get kicked out of my government housing apartments and things because I earn too much money. I think the minimum threshold is $20,000 a year. And so if you earn over $20,000 a year or something, you can get kicked out for someone who's poorer than you. I don't know. But I don't know what I'll do. I'll probably... Well, I did already sign up to acting, so I could sign up with more agencies, but I don't really want to. I don't know if signing up with more agencies is the thing to do, or whether I should just apply for every job on the internet until someone calls me and says, hey, we'd like to interview you, and then give you a job. I mean, it's an exhaustive effort if you apply for every job. I think the first thing I should do is relocate to a city where jobs are abundant. And the second thing I should do is just apply for every job, and then I might get one. But I think I'll literally be so scared because I'm nervous about using my money because I always lose it. Whenever I'm by myself, I always lose my money. But this time I'm not going to fall for a scam. Once I fell for a scam, I lost like $30,000 on this scam, which promised you blah blah amounts of money if you pay enough to receive a letter which has a check for such and such a millions of dollars. And literally I spent $30,000 because every time like you would look on this internet thing at the picture of a plane heading towards your country, and it would take forever to get there, and then and stuff. To cut a long story short, I lost like 30 grand. And that's why I didn't end up buying an apartment at some stage when they were having the cheaper versions of new apartments. So I'm not going to be dumb like that. That was naive me, just learning things for the first time. I had never met a scam, let alone fallen for one. And that was the one and only scam that I'm ever going to fall for because I just don't do that anymore. I'm like, oh no, I learned for my first time, but it did cut me a lot. It cut and bruised me, bruised my trust, everything. But that was years and years ago. That was so many years ago. That was like over 10 years ago. So you'd think I'd get over that, but I'm not scared of doing that. I'm just scared of wasting my money on rental until I have none. Because that's what rentals seem to do. They seem to drain you. And I'm like, well, if rentals drain you, so will a house. You can't own a house. So literally, I'm still waiting for Lotto. This time, though, I'm not putting down my guns with Lotto. I just keep pumping the Lotto thing through. And eventually I might win Lotto somehow. But if I don't, I'm still buying my ticket every week. And sometimes a scratchy. I don't think I've bought a scratchy in over a year. And so I should go down and buy one because we've got a newsagent down the street. And you never know, you could win. But I don't really buy scratchies. I just enter Lotto because I'm can we bother buying a scratchy? I already enter Lotto and it's just as big a chance as a scratchy. And so I do go oblivious with scratchies unless I'm in the mood. But I don't know. I don't know what the world would be like if I go back to being a loner me again. It's like me by myself, living by myself. I'm like, what will my world be like? It'll be like, I get scared though. I tend to buy little toys and hug them because I get kind of scared when I'm by myself. And the thing that I'm scared about is just running out of money and not being able to get a job. I think those are the two most scary things that I face. I'm not really that worried about intruders because if you get a half decent rental, see, I'm already fluffing myself up to a $300 a week rental already. If you get yourself a half decent rental, you don't have to worry too much about break-ins. Even though I have rented and the landlords always break in, so I don't know what they're tripping about, but they seem to like to treat you like a whacked out stranger who just wants to tell them to get lost, kind of thing. And that will lead me to believe that you cannot rent and have pets, because I've rented and had pets and people break in and steal my pets. And then I realize that they've actually been murdered by all the neighbors that are sit around you. And then I'm like, okay, well, that's not very good. You know, once I bought $12,000 worth of pets, so like little teacup animals, and they were stolen. And another time I bought a small wolf dog, which is like called a Kilcoy. And this dumb little girl who thinks she owns the world stole her off me by knife point. And it took forever for the cops to agree that they should seize the dog, and then the dog ended up being in a very bad position. It was like a hostage position, and then of course it ended up being victimized, so it wasn't a very good outcome. It was all horrible and totally abusive, and I really didn't like seeing that. Even now it's so sad because I was entering dog shows and stuff with it, and it was a prize winning dog, so intelligent, so lovely and beautiful, and then it's like this dumb little girl can steal her off me and then treat the dog really badly, and then the dog ends up being a victim. So, but that's what people are like, you know, they just snitch things that they want. The same thing happened in Victoria when I was living there. I bought myself a teacup pug. It's just so cute. It's the cutest little thing I've ever bought. Anyway, it's the cutest thing. And this dumb person, who was apparently a poor person who wears business suits all day, stole it off me. And they were smart enough to be able to, you know, reconfigure its chip so that it had a different barcode on it. And then the police like, you know, does it have the right configuration chip? And it's like it had the chip with a different number and everything. And then the guy was like going crazy. He's like, this is my dog, it's not your dog. And I'm like, and so they stole my dog. Smartasses. And this is why I don't have pets, because people steal them off me. And it's so unfair because I spend so much money on pets to have a beautiful life with them, and then people steal them off you. And some people treat them really good, some people treat them really bad, but either way they're like, you can't have that pet, I'm going to get it from you. And you're this poor person. Everyone says, oh, it's so poor, and everyone looks down on, and everyone steals your pets. It doesn't help that your pets cost $5,000 to $12,000, but still, they steal your pets. I think the cheapest pet I had was $2,500, and that's because I like to get those pets that are kind of special and cool. And then everyone's like, you can't have that. So then maybe the key is to get just a normal pet that you pick up from the pound. But I don't like going to pounds because I end up wanting the pet. I like every animal that's in the pound. And so I don't believe that I've ever chosen just one from a pound. But that might be where I get my next pet or something, because I'm like, oh, I've got to have this one. Oh, I've got to have this one. So I could end up with 3 pets easy from the pound, because I'm like, I just want to look after all of them. You have to choose just 1 or 2. Anyway, it will be a trip which I can document later. For now, I don't have to worry about it. I'll worry about it in another 6 months or so, maybe.